Episode 2 of the Mediums podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second episode of the Mediums podcast. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through what I call the 3Rs framework for connecting with your team in spirit. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it's like to be a medium, how I experience things in terms of feelings, and how I get connections from them on the other side. Usually I like to think of it like a game of charades. So they don't talk to us when I'm connecting with deceased loved ones or your team in spirit. It's not like they say, Kara, go tell so-and-so that the tulips are so beautiful on the side of their house. Instead, they'll show me a house and they'll show me tulips and then they'll show me a smile. So then I'll say things like, do you have tulips on the side of your house and they make you really happy? Or they might show me tulips and a farm. And I'll say something like, did your grandmother have tulips on the side of her house and her farm? So that's kind of how it works. And sometimes I get it right and sometimes I get it wrong. So I also will feel things in my body. So when I connect with a team in spirit, they're often trying to tell me how they died. And not that they want the person to relive it in their reading, but it's a way to validate who they are and to show up so that you know that it's really them. So one time I was doing a reading for a lady and her grandpa had passed away. And he had worked in a facility that caused lots of damage in his lungs and buildup in his lungs, kind of like a coal mine, but it wasn't a coal mine. And he made me very uncomfortable in my throat, so much so that it was like this. I did your grandpa problems breathing in his throat? And it made it so that I was almost choked out. And I was like, okay, buddy, I got it. You got to lighten it up a little bit. But he wanted her to know that's how I died. And I want you to know it's me. It's this grandpa that died that way. Or sometimes they'll give me like slight pressure on my lungs to tell me that they had either COVID or cancer or some type of lung disease. Or sometimes they'll put some pressure on my head. And sometimes they'll do it like this, like a foggy little sign, they'll give me a sign of like fogginess or staticness. And that means that they had memory issues or an unclear brain when they died or brain issues. One time they gave me a little bulge in my head to show me that they had an impact on their head and they died of impact on their head. And so all those different ways are ways that things physically show up in my body when I'm doing a reading for somebody. And, sometimes sadly people die by either overdose or suicide. Those are always the hardest and the saddest ones for me. And when those types of things happen, they will show me their shoes and then they will show me somebody stepping into shoes. And it's their way of saying, I'm taking accountability or ownership for some of the way that I died. So it's giving me some accountability. And then they'll show me other things too. A pill bottle, alcohol, beer can, a gun. They'll show me all sorts of different things that go with that so that I can help them understand what happened and share that back with them just to validate that this person really is real and trying to connect with them. But people ask me all the time, Kara, okay, I get it. And it's so cool that I can call you and I can get a reading and I can talk to my deceased loved ones and get guidance in my life. I wish that I could do this for myself. I just get so stressed out and overwhelmed and I don't know how to do it. And I get all up in my head. And so I'm going to tell you the framework that I used to awaken my own intuitive gifts and a framework that you can use too. So I call the framework the 3Rs for connecting with your spirit team. And the first R stands for the word release. What I have found is that if you want to connect with your team in spirit, you have to be willing to release what no longer serves you. And that's a very, very hard thing to do. It's releasing things like fear or doubt or worry. I had a client that was paralyzed by fear. She could not make a decision, even though she intuitively knew she needed to make a decision about something very significant in her life. And she wasn't expressing anything to me. She was just waiting to see what I would get in a reading. And they showed me feet in cement blocks. and I said, do you feel paralyzed by fear? Do you feel like you're stuck in cement, like you don't know how to take a step forward? And she said, that's exactly how I feel. So it's things like overthinking everything in our head. I call it stinking thinking, or that noisy chatter up in your head. Um, my clients will tell me that they do things to try to create their own connections, but then they start overthinking it and worrying. And then it's like crickets. I can't hear anything. I'm like, no guidance, nothing at all. So, it's one of those things where people say, I want to like hear, like, it's like they're going to hear somebody talking to them. Like, this is the voice of God talking to you. And it doesn't really work like that. It's kind of like a thought in your mind's eye. It's not necessarily a voice, at least for me. And most people don't hear a voice. They will get something that pops in their head out of nowhere. So that's another way to think about, am I getting intuitive guidance? Can I hear this? So get out of fear and doubt and worry, get out of that noisy, stinking thinking in your head, and just get quiet and listen. And you might get something like an aha, like, oh my gosh, aha, I know exactly what to do now. Or a name will appear out of nowhere, and then you're supposed to call that person. So it's things like that that just appear out of nowhere or get sunk into your brain and pop in out of nowhere. If you are seeing a bunch of things and you're going, is this the sign? Is this the sign? Is it this book? Is it this clock? Is it this room? Like what's the sign for my team in spirit? Those are probably not signs. Those are probably just you wanting something to be real, and it's all that noisiness in your head. So, one of the best ways that I can help you release fear and doubt and worry and noisy chatter in your head is through a meditation. I have this free on my website. You can get it on my Instagram, but it's called Ground, Clear, and Connect. And I think this is a wonderful first step for you to help you get out of that fear and worry and release the first R of this framework, releasing. So what it does is allows you to connect and ground with Mother Earth energy, come up and clear each one of your chakra areas of any stuck and stale energy, any low vibe stuff that got stuck inside you. Clear that all out. And then we ask divine angel energy, white light to come down from above our crown of our head and then come through every part of our body and then push it out like a bubble of light of protection. I do this every single day, some ground clear connect to allow me to feel connected with my team in spirit. And the days that I don't, I said every day, but I do it almost every day. And the days that I don't, I feel off. I feel a little bit like something's missing. So I think this is a wonderful place for you to start thinking about how to release what no longer serves you. Which brings us to the second R, which is raise. Raise your vibrational energy. And people say all the time, okay, high vibes. That's a phrase that I have on a piece of wood that I hang on my wall that I got at Home Goods or TJ Maxx. Like, I get it, high vibes only, raise your vibes. But it's not exactly that simple. What that means is it's letting go of things that don't serve you so that your vibrational energy vibrates at a higher frequency. It's like listening to the radio at 90.5 and you want to turn it to 99.5. So how do you raise the radio tuning to a higher frequency, a higher vibration, if you will? So it's not just things like, I just want to be happy every day. My first thing that I did to raise my vibrational energy was to let go of my ego in particular. And I don't mean like bravado, like I take charge of situations. What I mean by ego is that part of us that keeps us safe and living in what feels familiar. It's also the part of us that says, I can figure this out. I don't trust anyone but myself. I know how to get through this situation. I'm going to depend on myself to figure it out. And I had a lot of that, having to work in corporate America, having been in kind of a man's world for several parts of my career. In fact, I'll give you a fun little story. The very first board meeting I ever went to when I was a senior vice president in a company, I flew to Chicago, had a board meeting, and I was the senior vice president of sales, marketing, and customer success. So a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And I had met the board before in Zoom calls and things like that, but I was coming to present forecasts, revenue, budgets, all of those things. And I got into the room, and one of the board members was an old white guy. And he said to me, "Oh, hi, are you here to take our lunch order?" I'm like, no, I'm Kara. I'm your senior vice president of sales, marketing, and customer success. And I'm here to present your forecasting and financials. He goes, "Oh, okay, great." So when I say things like my ego, I had to be pretty assertive and stand my ground and hold my own to play at that senior level in corporate America in particular. And I had a lot of that ego energy in me, and I needed to figure out how to release it and let go of it. And so when I wanted to stretch and go into more feminine sides of who I was, my ego loves to step in and protect me and take me back to what's comfortable and safe and what has worked for me in the past. So I have an incredible Reiki and energy healer by the name of Audrey. I will tag her, or if you would love to work with her, just send me a message and I'll connect you with her. She's absolutely fantastic. But she helped me to truly let go of my ego. We did guided meditations, visualizations, energy clearings, all sorts of things that allowed me to say things like, "Thank you, ego, for protecting me and getting me this far in my life. I'm going to ask you to step aside and allow my more higher self to step forward and function in the world. And if I'm in danger, come on back and protect me. But otherwise, thank you for your service. And I'm going to let you go. I'm stepping into my higher self." And that was a huge thing for me. So again, loved this energy worker. She is fantastic. And I swear by her. So if you want to talk to her, let me know. Then the next thing that you can do to raise your vibrational energy is to see situations and things from a lens of love. And I have to say, this is a very, very hard thing to do. I had a client who was going through some pretty tough stuff with her mother, and interacting with her mom was very triggering. And I think you all know what I mean by triggering. There are certain situations and people that are just very triggering experiences for us. And I have to say, when you are triggered and you're emotionally charged and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to kill this person or this situation, I'm just going to lose it." When you feel triggered to that level of significance, that is the perfect time to breathe, take a step back, and get curious. Figure out why you are so triggered. And usually there is some part of us that is not healed yet, and that trigger is there to show us what we need to do. The last thing I want to mention when it comes to that second R of raising your vibrational energy is this question that I want you to ask yourself. How is this happening for me, not to me? And of course, that's an easy thing to ask when things are going great and really hard when things are going pretty shitty. So when you have a crap situation, you want to be like, "Why me?" Like, for instance, when we lost our babies, "Why me? Why would you do this to me?" And that was the wrong question. The right question was, why is this happening? And what am I supposed to learn from this experience? There has to be a message and a lesson in this pain. What is the lesson? Help me learn the lesson. Our team in spirit is constantly trying to connect with us and help us, and especially when we're going through something painful and hard, they're there to help us through those big life lessons. Life lessons like love, worthiness, forgiveness, or speaking your truth. So this is really important that you invite your team in spirit and ask them to help you see, what am I not missing? Help me see how this situation is happening for me, not to me. I will say, I had a client that I've been working with for many years, and she was going through a very, very dark depression. She had lost her son to an overdose and substance abuse, and it was very painful. The first time she came to me, she was a shell of a person. But her son on the other side was such a strong force, and he gave her so many specific pieces of information and validation. And he kept telling her over and over and over again, Mom, it was going to happen. If not this situation, it was going to be another situation. And I'm meant to help you on the other side. This is going to be part of your life's work. And of course, she was like, hogwash, that's crap. I just want my son back, which of course can't happen. But over the course of several readings and releasing some of those lower vibrational thoughts and feelings and depression and emotions, she started to see the situation of what happened to her son through the lens of love. Now, I won't get into all of the details, but there's some very specific things that he told her that really helped her to make sense of what happened. And she is now using this as part of her life's work. She is on a mission to help families and facilities learn how to care for people with substance abuse better. And it is incredible to see her turn this very sad situation into something that is going to be the hallmark of her life's work. So those are just some things, ways that you can think about how to raise your vibrational energy, letting go of your ego, seeing things through the lens of love, and asking yourself, how is this happening for me, not to me? Which brings us to the third R, which is receive. So once you do those things, you can start to receive messages from your team and spirit. Now, they may not come like a game of charades and words in your head and flashing pictures like it is for me, but you might start to see signs or synchronicities or patterns, and those are messages from your team and spirit. So I want you to think about that. How can I start seeing more signs and synchronicities and pay attention to my guardian angels, my deceased loved ones, my team and spirit who are there to help me? And I will say signs come in all sorts of ways. And I've heard some of the most unique and crazy ones as well. But most often you're going to see things like coins or feathers or birds. Usually cardinals or blue jays, but it could be a hawk or an owl or an eagle or a pretty orange bird, and that means something to you. Sometimes it's music. You'll be in the car and your brother who had passed away will pop a song on, and it's your favorite song that you listened to every day when you went to school. And that song goes on and you're like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking of my brother. And then boom, our favorite song popped on. So it could be things like that. Or animals, right? I keep seeing this fox. What does a fox mean? Sometimes it's electronics or number patterns. Things like 222, 333, 555, 1111. Just this morning, I was having a little bit of a rough morning and feeling kind of cruddy about a specific situation. And I turned the corner to drop my daughter off at school. And I immediately see on the side of a house 111. And then I see on a mailbox 222. And then I drive past the mailbox and there's a truck parked in the street with the number 222. And 222 is one of my signs that my team and spirit is there. And I immediately felt loved and supported and comforted and felt a lot better just immediately by seeing those number patterns. Also, it can come in your dreams where you get signs in your dreams and you have loved ones that visit you or things that make sense when you wake up from a dream. So I will say whenever a feeling comes over you and you immediately think of a deceased loved one or think that has to be a sign from my guardian angels, it often is. So when it comes out of the blue and hits you like a ton of bricks, trust that it's a sign. Again, if you're thinking and overthinking it and looking everywhere, like, is this license plate? Is it this license plate? Is it this license plate? Oh, no, it's this one. That's probably not a sign. That's probably you wanting it to be a sign, but not actually receiving a sign. So if you're overthinking it, let it go, take some breaths and ask for something more specific. And of course, you can ask for a sign that you want to see. My mom in particular sees jet streams in the sky and it makes her think of her mother. So it's not like they can make planes fly in the air at specific times, but what they can do is get in your mind or in your heart and say, look up, look up. And then you go, I don't know why, but I want to go outside and look up in the sky at this exact minute. And then there's 5 jet streams coming across. I have some really amazing stories over the course of the life of this podcast that I'm going to share with you about signs and synchronicities. But one of the very first ones I ever received was my smoke detectors going off. And when I say going off, they were like beeping, like beep, 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 constantly. And I was like, what is going on? I changed the batteries. I put them back. I did all the things and they wouldn't stop beeping. So I started taking them out and just setting them down. And my husband was like, why are you taking our smoke detectors down? And I said, because they're driving me absolutely nuts. And then, of course, I went to a reading with Rebecca Rosen and she said, are your smoke detectors beeping and going off? I'm like, yes, all the time. She goes, oh, well, it's a sign from your grandpa. He's messing with your electronics. He just is trying to say hi. I'm like, okay, great. That's amazing. Another time I was doing a reading for somebody, and that evening I was staying in a hotel. And in that reading, this person's son in particular started showing me a microwave. So he showed me the image of a microwave. And then in my ear, I heard beep, 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 beep. And I said, is your microwave beeping? She said, no. I go, has it at all in the last couple of weeks? And she said, no. And I go, okay, well, he keeps saying it over and over and over again. So obviously it means something. So if your microwave beeps, don't freak out about it. Just know that it's your son saying hello to you. So that night, let it go, didn't think anything of it, was happy to do a reading for this client, went to bed, and in the middle of the night, my microwave started beeping like crazy. And I woke up, I was delirious, and I was like, what's going on? Oh my God. So I opened the door of the microwave. Nope, kept beeping. So I unplugged the thing, and finally it stopped beeping. And then I could still hear beeping like everywhere. I was like, quieter though, because it wasn't in my room, but I could hear beep, 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 beep. And I go out in the hallway, and there are like 7 other people standing in the hallway looking around. Every single microwave in the entire hotel was beeping. Beep, 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 beep for 20 minutes. And then they just stopped. And it was the craziest thing. And I thought, what in the heck is going on? It was the middle of the night and I was tired. And then I went to bed. And that morning I did a connecting with my team in spirit. And I said, what was with all those microwaves beeping? Totally forgot about the reading that I had done and that message was channeled from her son. And they said, oh, well, your client is here and he wanted to thank you so much for allowing him to connect with his mother and how much it meant to him. And he wanted to give you a sign to have you trust your own intuitive gifts and to thank you for your experience. So he made all the microwaves in the entire hotel beep. So that is one of my favorite electronic stories. I would love to hear all of your stories of signs and synchronicities. Maybe I'll even feature them on the podcast. I would absolutely love that. But I hope that you feel like you're learning something about your team and spirit and feeling a little bit of a stirring and awakening inside of you. Like, oh, maybe I could start using that 3 R's framework and get signs from my team and spirit. So I cannot wait to give you the next episode where I'm going to start interviewing other incredible intuitives, and it's going to be awesome. And I hope that you love it as much as I do. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for tuning in. And until next time, my friends, stand in the love and light in the world and shine your light brightly. Namaste.